it's Rose again. Hey, today I wanted to go over this book. It's called a hymn book. As you can see, hymn book. And I'm going to read the cover to you. It says, hymn book. From this day on, I'll keep complete a record of all the boys I meet, because among them there may be the one who will mean the world to me. So what a hymn book is a little book where you keep a record of all the boys you date, and you include their name, their nickname, their address, where you met them, and then a little note about them. In this particular book, the person wrote her name, which is Janet Louise Foley of Washington, D.C., and I looked up the address here in Washington, which still exists. The house still exists. It was built in the 1920s. I assume that this book, she was living in that house while she was filling out these pages. So she, it was like a 20-year-old house back then. So this book is in like a little wood, bound in a wood cover. And it's the paper that they use is super cheap. It's the same paper that you would use for like newspaper or dime store soft cover books that were sold back then for like 10 cents. I'm sure you've seen them before. You open them up and the pages are really brown. If you dropped this page onto the ground really hard at the right angle, it would shatter. That's how brittle it is. So I don't want to bend it. So that's just a little side note. So I assume that this book was written in the 40s because Janet met a lot of these boys at a place called Riverside Stadium. Riverside Stadium is a stadium in Washington, D.C. It was built in 1938, and for the first few years it was a skating rink, and then it was used for other purposes after that. So she meets a lot of the boys here, and at one point she writes here, this boy's birth date, 1926. I assume that she's already graduated high school because none of these boys were met at school, and normally you would meet, boys at school during that time. So I'll just randomly read one to you. I'll read that one. That one is, his name is Samuel Spillers. His nickname is Joyja. She met him at National Arena Skating Rink, and she says, he seems to be a kind of fast guy, but all right when you get to know him, a good dancer. She makes a lot of little comments about the way that the guys skate, or if they skate good or bad, or if they dance good. Here she writes this one, the next one, Prentice. His nickname is Penny. She says she met him at Alexandria Arena. She says, the kind of fellow all the girls go for, huh? I can't see why. I'm too wrapped up in SMS. I don't know what that means. I wish I knew what that meant. I really do. So I find these kind of interesting because there's a lot of holes in the story about Janet. So I like to kind of fill them in with my mind. So that's kind of what I like about collecting other people's stuff. I figure out, like, I make a story in my mind. My imagination likes it a lot for some reason, and I make stories up in my mind about the person. Here she has a picture on the other side of a boy named Steve. She met him at 11th and 7th Streets, so probably just near her home. This is how in the old days we used to meet people, just walking around or at the skating rink or at the store when we went on the bus or whatever. She says he's a very different kind of man. I can't figure him out, but maybe it's better that way. He's in the Marine Corps. Here's one she says, Kenny, a very nice person, is inclined to drink too much and is very quiet. The interesting thing that I found about her comments on the boys is they're very polite. She never really says, she doesn't call them out, being an asshole or, flat out. She's very polite. And I think that was kind of the way that people talked about other people back then, 50 years ago. And I think that changed closer to the 50s, but it still is very polite at this point, at least in some circles. Here is she puts a picture of this boy, William Tate. And you can see him. His nickname is Bill. Look at William. Look at Bill there. Doesn't he look a little suspicious? Doesn't he look a little devious? Maybe sneaky. He looks a little sneaky, doesn't he? I like to think that Bill looks a little sneaky. She says about Bill, she met him at High Score Bowling Alley, and she says he's a swell person to go out with. Always a lot of fun and pretty cute too. But she adds to that at a later date on the other side of the book, she says, I changed my opinion of him after one real date when I got stranded out in Virginia. No decent girl would date him if she were in her right mind. So I wonder what happened in Virginia. Did the car break down? Did he get too drunk? Did he make a pass? Was she trying to push him away? Did he not take no for an answer? Did she end up, did he end up leaving her? She left him. That is an interesting story, I believe, and I would like to know a little more about that story. So if anybody knows Janet Louise Foley or is related to her, maybe they know the story, or maybe this is just gonna stay in the processing in my imagination until I die, which is fine too. So on this next page, she actually has a couple of pictures. She fills out the whole thing actually with 3 pictures, which is kind of cool. So you can see the guys. See the guy up there? They're cute, aren't they? They're so well dressed. So well dressed. I mean, compared to the guys I see wearing just, sweatpants and pajamas, these guys have suits on and uniforms and belts and fitted clothing. It's kind of nice. So in this particular one on the bottom here, there's a photo of a woman, a child, and a man. So it says his name is William Green. His nickname is Willie. She met him at Riverside Stadium. She says, he seems to be the only one for me, a little short, but that doesn't mean anything. So my imagination is, what, did these two have this kid together? What happened here? I'd really like to know. Maybe they ended up getting married. I don't know. It's really hard to Google people like that are over a certain age because they don't really have an online presence. So I couldn't find out a lot. The book doesn't really have an end, but it gives you a tiny glimpse into somebody's life that wrote it 70 years ago, and that's what I find interesting. And it for some reason my imagination really likes this kind of stuff because I get to fill in all the blanks, and there's a lot of them, and imagine what this person's life might have been before and after this. So I think it's kind of fun, and that's one of the reasons why I collect stuff like this. Let me know what you guys think. And I also would like to know if anybody has ever kept track of their dating. Now, I know I haven't. Like, that would have been, I mean, that's just not something that I ever thought of doing. Also, that would have been like a book like this thick, no lie. Because I went out with a lot of boys. Let me know if you keep track of your dating. Maybe there's an app for this now. Maybe you can keep track in an app. Send it to your friends. There's a rating system and everything. Was he a good dater, a bad dater? That would suck, wouldn't it? I think that's where we're going though, with social credit, but we'll see. I hope not. All right, y'all, have a good day. I'm looking forward to sharing my next piece of interesting ephemera with you. Subscribe if you like this content, and I'll talk to you later.